Yeah. Subscribe to the channel. Petrovna, look, someone's scratching. Stirring a fork and a cube of sugar in tea, said her partner, Baba Dusa. No, you take a look. Petrovna waved. A woman, years old, working in a clinic at the volunteer center of a nurse. You have a tool at hand. She nodded, pointing at the fork. Instead of a gun. Ah, take you too, said the old lady. The oldest nurse in the clinic, and she was hard to get up from the table. Having taken the fork with her, she came to the door and listened. Someone really quietly knocked, as if the mouse was squeaking. Who was the knight, the fox, the forest? A wander, a wander. Salty hair, flared skin on the face, lack of cosmetics. Well, everything said that she had long had nothing to do with water, soap, and cream. But despite this, it seemed that it was just a mere misunderstanding. I felt a sense of inferiority and even some kind of intelligence. What do you want, darling? Good evening. The woman has been transferred to Jinanuku. Tell me, I couldn't stay at your place for at least one night. Why don't you go home, sweetheart? Trampoline. And somehow her tongue didn't turn to call her a trampoline. She didn't fit into this definition. You see, the stranger looked down. I don't know where to go. It flew out of my head. Maybe because she's very sick? How do you call yourself? Petrovna came up to find out where the old lady was. She's been standing here in the woods, sharpening. I don't remember. The woman must have been sprained by her shoulders. Okay, come in. There's nothing to stand on the threshold. It's already cool. The old lady has moved aside, letting the woman pass. Let's go, I'll make tea. And there you will tell me who, where. Do you want to eat? Later, I'll go to the guest house. If possible, of course. I'm right, it's inconvenient to bother you. We'll find a piece of bread, don't doubt it, smiled Petrovna. The nurse and the nursemaid made sandwiches, poured tea, moved a jar with jam. And what, can I just drink it straight from the jar? Surprised. What about the ceremony? Tea is not in the palace, it's royal. Baba Duzia picked up fragrant berries from the jar and sent them to the mouth. Well, tell me. The nurse sat down more comfortably, so as not to miss a word. I honestly don't know what to tell. The stranger waved her hands. It felt like half of my life was in vain. I don't remember anything. Only the light of the headlight. A strong headache in my head woke up in some people with a tied head. Good people treated me. They say a week of memorylessness lay in vain. Why didn't you call the ambulance, you good people? Petrovna smiled. They say they treat with the sun and some other kind of teraborshkina, that they are enemies of chemistry and medicines and all that. Oh, otherwise everyone who got into the cult, the head of the sanitary, was shaken. How did you manage to get out of them? They just don't let anyone out of their networks. I don't know, no one held me. I just got up at night and went. But it was awkward for me that so many troubles were brought to people. Here they are, in Olst and in Zadurva, or maybe... Petrovna laughed. They thought the poor girl would not go anywhere, and she ran away. Do you think they are upset? Thinking about catching berries from the jar one by one, the unqualified sectarian was interested. Don't go to the fortune teller, confirmed Baba Duzia. Well, you did the right thing by leaving. Where are you going? So here. I don't know. I'm waiting. Maybe something will come to my mind, but it's empty for now. The woman folded her hands on her knees. Well, thank you very much for the bread and salt. And for the jam, said Petrovna. And for the jam, the guest smiled. You're welcome. Stay with us. Well, if you don't rub yourself, there's no work, said Baba Duzia. We don't need extra hands. I'm happy. What are you doing? The woman even got a little funnier. We have a volunteer medical center for homeless people here. Well, something like your sect, said Petrovna. Only we treat them with pills and injections. And what will I need to do? Surprisingly, she looked at one thing, then at another unexpected visitor. And nothing complicated calmed her down in the abyss. Somewhere to wash the floors, somewhere to feed the lying patient, maybe help change clothes. So, that's how it is. Everyday work. But we won't be able to keep the job. We're not in jail. What did I ask for? What if I don't know how to do something? But I'll definitely wash the floors. You don't need to restore your memory for that. The stranger smiled. Well, you're joking, that's good. Petrovna nodded politely. So, what should we call you? I don't know, call Rita. The guest got up to wash the mug and spoon. Rita, the ladies agreed. So first, wash yourself and get yourself in order. The old lady got tired. Otherwise, they will take the patient, God forbid. She took out the clean towels, medical clothes, and new slippers from the closet. Shower. As soon as you leave the restroom, right on the right hand. Shampoo, soap too. There is no soap, well, nothing. For the first time, just rinse, and then we will find all your belongings. After the shower, Rita felt that she was like a sleeping shell. Such lightness was formed in the body. She also looked younger, just 10 years old. Wow, you're a very young girl. Surprisingly, the old lady called out, and the eye can hear the sound of such a liver. Am I a bore? Leftrito. Say too the same. She was years old. Right features of the face, straight posture, beautiful hands, and long, thick chestnut hair, all this said about clearly not a wanderer of life. But until memory returned to her, you need to get used to the conditions in which she turned out. Slowly, Rita got into routine work, did everything she was told. Slowly, she started helping the nurse, and then the nurse. She did a great job of bandaging the patients, neatly and at the same time very reliably. Some of the nurse sisters even asked to share their experience, which Rita laughed at, that she doesn't remember about such experience, but she showed how she does it. Evdokia Ivanovna. How did Rita call Granny Dush? And where are we? Well, the city or the village. We're outside the city, dear, about 50 kilometers away. The nurse looked closely at Rita. What? Do you want to leave? No, why? Where am I going? To please some sect again? I just thought, maybe someone was looking for me in the city. After all, the announcements could be somewhere. But here, dear, I will not help you with anything. I was upset. Granny Dusick. I'm not leaving here at all. I have nowhere to go, and I have no reason to go. I am one of these people, after all. She threw herself on the floor, where homeless people were lying. She also came to the clinic like you. Only with memory I was fine. Even too much. I would like to forget everything, like you. Well, I can't. Grandma shook her head, and plunged into sad memories, began to hard pull the floor. Rita did not ask the nurse. Seeing how her mood changed, all this scene was watched by Petrovna. She called Rita with a gesture and took her away. She had a painful topic. She nodded at Evdokiv. The children took the apartment with a trick and moved out on the street. Our Dusta almost got drunk. She got into the eyes of the then chief well. He brought her here. First they treated her, and then she stayed here. Oh my God, how could you do this to your mother? Rita couldn't believe it. What do you think? Half of them are here, said Petrovna. Some of them had their children, some of them had black realtors. Someone had already sold the apartment. And you are here like Rita. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to. Yes, I'm just working here, said Petrovna. So don't apologize. Memory didn't want to come back. Young nurses, at the request of Rita, combed the city groups on social networks to the subject of the announcement of the missing. Rita, why don't you want to write an announcement yourself that you have been found? They asked her. No, girls. Until memory returns to me. Anyone can deceive me, Rita thought logically. So I'll wait for now. Almost a month has passed since she settled in the shelter clinic. Once, in the reception room, a stroke happened. Doctors and nurses ran in. What happened? Rita stopped the woman passing by Petrovna. She said to the clinic, she said she was lost. And the woman's belly is climbing on her nose. Here she is giving birth. We have such a contingent, only traumas, diazofag, gangrenas. No one of the homeless tried to give birth to her. So everyone runs. The ambulance will not wait. The girl is giving birth. Can I see? Rita was seriously upset. You? Thought Petrovna. Well, look, it will not be worse. You're like a noticeable periodicity. Fights. Rita's head was, well, shall we give birth? She smiled at the girl, approaching the table. You? The pregnant woman walked, seeing Rita. You are alive. Thank God. Then she was interrupted by a fight again, but this time for a long time. Rita acted skillfully. She gave instructions to the nurses and doctors. She encouraged the girl to give birth. There was no time to think about her words. Rita took the baby. In half an hour, a wonderful baby appeared. A boy, kilos and centimeters. What a hero you were born. Rita praised the girl, and put the baby on her breast. The mother with tears in her eyes smiled and kissed her little fingers. Stepashka. His name is Stepashka. She looked around at the people present. Thank you. And you? She looked at Rita. Well, you rest for now, then we'll talk. Rita took the baby and gave it to Petrovna, saying what to do. Is there anywhere to put the girl until she is here? Rita looked at her colleague. They shook their heads in a negative way. Then, bring her to me. She will lie there until she is out of the bed. Young mom and child were brought to Rita's little room, which she was given when she stayed in the clinic. There was not much space, but they fit. Rita asked for a bedspread for herself and another set of bedding for them. The three of them stayed. Rita sat down next to the girl on the edge of the bed. Do you know me? She looked at her reaction carefully. Of course. Don't you remember me? She was surprised and looked at Rita. You were watching me a month ago, so tell me how it was. Rita's appearance was quite stunned, and the girl had nothing left to say about the events of the past month. My name is Rita, she started, and Margarita was shocked. So that's where this name came from. My parents are very wealthy and influential people. Of course, they can't let their reputation be flooded with black and even gray spots. I'm their only daughter. They're usually called majors. Well, they call and call. What can I do? They gave me a car for years, bought an apartment, but they didn't refuse. They set up a high school, then an institute. Well, I don't mind either. But when I start getting married to all the sons of my friends, then, sorry, I have a boyfriend. I didn't tell him what family I was from. He came to a date in ordinary clothes from the Tajik market. I had to change into a suit. Nikita is very good. He loves me. I love him too. He studies as a surgeon at the institute. And when he found out that I was pregnant, he was in the seventh heaven of happiness. He rented an apartment for us, bought everything for the child. A bed, a wheelchair, toys, diapers. I wanted to tell him about myself when I was born. But when my people found out, I hid it from them until the last moment. Knowing what they were capable of, they threatened to destroy it. Oh, well, I didn't say what his name was. They don't know who he is. They only know that he's from a simple family. At this time, Stepan snored. We need to feed. Rita the elder smiled and helped to adjust the boy's chest. Having suffered a little, the mother and son succeeded. And the boy snored, fell asleep, and, having had enough, fell asleep happy. Rarely does someone have milk immediately appear, said little Rita. I read on the internet. Yes, I was lucky. The doctor took him, held him with a pole until he released the air, and put him to mom. Then I'll take it so as not to choke. The bed here is bad, with a hole. Okay. The young mommy nodded and continued. Then I listened to them talking about some good doctor. I was delighted. I thought they would give me a good berth in the clinic. I packed my things, got ready, and when they found out what my term was, they got tired, quickly pushed me into the car, and drove me somewhere. And they brought me to the maternity hospital, and they brought me to your office. I also looked at the table of the gynecologist, Zueva Tatiana Pavlovna. I was left in the hallway. You and him argued about something. They shouted, "What would they do to you if you don't do this?" I thought that they wanted to lock me up in the hospital so that no one would see me, and you refused. I thought we could offer money. And when my father brought me to the office and put me on a chair, I saw that you had no face. You then told your father to leave, and he didn't listen. And then you told me that my parents are forcing you to kill my child for money. And you also asked me if I needed this baby. I then wailed like a crazy man, and you cried with me. And then you helped me run away. Remember? Tatiana shook her head. No, she didn't remember that. You let me? As if in the maternity ward, and they took me out through the emergency exit. They said that the most you can do for me. And then I didn't think about you at all. I was very scared. I waited for my mother and father to leave the house. They then jumped out like a spade. She didn't live, my father screamed. This doctor will pay for what she did. And then I was scared for you. And for myself even more. She went through some yards, through the alleyways, took all the money off the card. I know my father will block her. I had to rent a room in such shabby places that my parents wouldn't think of looking for me there. I couldn't call Nikita. They would have found me right away. My father had everything. When the money ran out, I was put out of the room. So, I had to go where my eyes were looking. I never thought I would fall into such a situation. And I didn't understand where I went when my fight started. Then I look, it says Medical Volunteer Center. Well, I think I was lucky to get lost. And then they didn't do anything to you? I don't remember, Tatiana honestly admitted. I owe them my name. Only today I learned from you. I remember only the light of the headlights and the blow, and how my head hurt very much. So they kept their word. I can't stop before anything, said Rita. Strange. Why didn't they check if he was alive or not? And why are they so against your child? This question tormented Tatiana. Yes, this is a stain on their reputation. Well, how? The only daughter who walked children from some student without a family, and they will be laughed at in their environment. And this is the end. So, we need to do something. But you can't hide and be afraid all your life. Maybe I should call Nikita? He has a father who is a policeman. What if he can help? Rita was in a daze. But I threw out my SIM card and didn't have time to buy a new one. So, I'll find the phone, promised Tatiana. But for now, have a rest. Nikita did not believe his ears when he first heard Rita's voice. He was already desperate to see her someday, because he is not. He knew almost nothing. Even his father could not help him, because neither his real name nor his father's name was said. Rita called the address of the center, and an hour later Nikita and his father were there. The meeting between Rita and her father and her child was turbulent. Both cried and laughed. Then Nikita went to look at his son. What a little one he is. He leaned over the baby. Looks like me. Nikita's father also looked at Stepan. And it really looks like him, he laughed. Are you a dad? The young were left alone, and Tatiana and Nikita's father went to the clinic yard. My name is Arkady. He shook off the invisible dust from the bench and invited Tatiana to sit down. She also introduced herself. Tatiana, tell me everything you know. He prepared himself carefully to listen. Tatiana told him. Arkadius thought about it. I need proof. You won't come to the point. Apparently, you were attacked. But for some reason, they weren't sure what was going on. Maybe someone interfered. Maybe even your sect members. I'll find them and maybe find out something. The parents of the priestess should tell the child. They still decide to do something, and you need to be ready for any surprises. So they did. Arkady found the sectarians and found out that 3 of them saw the moment of Tatiana's visit when she came to the house. It was dark, but they remembered the car. They called the brand and even the numbers. And why didn't they tell the police? Because they had not very good relations with the authorities. They picked up a woman and, convinced that she was alive, brought her to the community. They took care of her, treated her, until she came to her senses. But then, ungrateful, she ran away. After hearing the story of the eyewitnesses, Arkady returned to the center. Well, call your relatives. Father Nikita and Rita called. When the girl dialed the number and the mother took the phone, Rita told her where she was and that she had become a grandmother. At the end of the wire, they were silent for a long time. Then the father took the phone from the mother and said only one word. Wait. When the parents arrived and Tatiana went to meet them, no one expected what happened next. Father Rita, seeing a woman who helped her to escape their daughter by deceit, and who turned out to be so lively, groaned and threw herself at her with a scream. You creature! Alive! I'll kill you! He grabbed her by the throat and began to choke her. Tanya clung to the man's hands helplessly, but she lacked strength. She had already begun to lose consciousness. Arkady, standing in the shade, rushed to help her, and with a clear, precise blow to the neck, made the man press his fingers. Father Rita shuddered, mother screamed. Arkady, without a mask, put handcuffs on the man. He was watching the medical center. Someone called the police. The doctors and nurses came to Tanya and began to make her feel better. Rita ran out into the yard all in tears. Fool! The father shouted, seeing her. All my life I've been spoiled. And for what? For who? For some kind of a nephew. A future doctor. You had everything. What was missing? It's better with a doctor than with a killer. Could not believe that she saw all this with her own eyes. Rita's mother never stopped her husband, and she also kept silent here, only looking at her daughter with longing. The police officer who arrived took her mother and her father. Tatiana came to her senses, and from stress, memory returned to her. She remembered the conversation with her father, Rita, and the car that flew out on the sidewalk. And Rita herself. I would never believe that this happens. Wiping her neck, she looked in the mirror. Were there any bruises left? Yes, some kind of detective, Nikita confirmed. I almost went crazy when Rita disappeared. I already bought the ring and told my father about us and about the child. That's true. Arkady nodded. He bet in front of the fact that I would become a grandfather soon. They couldn't get anything. Great, Margarita was conspiring. Oh, it's a pity that mother didn't live long, said Nikita. They were escorting Tatiana and Rita with Stepashka to all the centers. Someone was waving from the windows, someone was going out. Granny Dizia and Petrovna were hugging her like a family. They even hugged. Father Rita was put in jail for a long time. After all, he was the one who was driving the car that knocked Tatiana down and did not even bother to examine the car after the attack. There were red marks on the wings and blood stains on the bumper and all sorts of examinations. The mother was given a conditional term. Her career was over, and she left the department to come to work at the volunteer medical center where her grandson was born. And 3 months later, Nikita and Rita signed. There was a small family celebration to which Tatiana was invited. She played with little Stepashka, who grew not by day, but by hour. Arkady was bold and invited her on a date, finding out that she was free. And Tanya agreed. If you like the story, please support me with the thumbs up button. For you, just one click, but for me, it is very important. Thank you.